muscle growth, hypertrophy, there still isn't an exact science to how it all occurs. There's hypothesis, there's certain variables that we know of that contribute to muscle growth, but it definitely isn't an exact science. And for that reason, I think it's important that we're not fundamental about the techniques and programs that we imply. What you do see when looking at studies is their correlation, and the main theme seems to be that it's a story of damage and repair, and it's the timing of this damage and repair, and it somewhat has a genetic component as well. So if the body goes through constant damage, degeneration starts to happen, the body starts to kind of decay. But if timed right, with the correct amount of damage and the correct amount of repair, the body actually gets stronger. And certain chemical and hormonal reactions that are seen as negative in certain amounts with certain periods of rest in between are actually a positive. So in fact, you're inducing exactly the same sort of biochemical reactions when training as you would when having a disease. An example would be hormones like cortisol, which generally seem to be something to avoid, but in fact there's a correlation between levels of cortisol and levels of obtained muscle mass. So in fact, cortisol in certain doses, with certain rests, I said before, is actually a productive and positive thing for muscle growth. Because there's such a large genetic and environmental component to this damage and repair, I think that programs themselves can sort of distract you from your own senses of whether or not the body's too damaged or whether or not the body is recovered enough to continue training. And this is where my philosophy is born from. It's born from the fact that the industry is focused far too much on structure and regime and programs that it's actually taken away from a physiological self-awareness that can help us find our own sort of radar. What I like to do is connect an individual's lifestyle with their psychology and consider the possible physiology that could then be implemented within those two, like a sort of mathematical equation that gives very individual specific ideas and training routes.
What I did at first was throw out a load of extreme training techniques and ideas and watch the response, really stressing the neurological system, really stressing all the energy systems to absolute max, seeing how far they can go, and then using that to dictate what happens next and what happens after that. But I'm a great believer in that there should be a great variety, and using that variety to pick from, like a pick and mix of what to use next depending on how your body's responding the day before that, or how you're appearing, or even how you feel. So if you feel like you're neurologically fatigued, then you can train more volume, so not really go to actually reach any sort of overload, but really go through the motions and just get the blood flowing. You hear about all these diets. You hear about the Atkins diet, you hear about intermittent fasting, you hear about paleo diet, and I've heard hundreds and hundreds of diets, you know, in the 20 years I've been involved, all claiming to be the answer, the quickest way, the quickest route. They all have and will get results, all in their own way. The metaphor would be similar to religion. They all claim to know the truth, all kind of sharing a similar philosophy, but different ways to get to that philosophy. And I think the mistake, as I believe with religion is the same within the diet industry and the training industry, is that they're claiming to have an answer. And by claiming to have that answer, by claiming to have that diet, by claiming to have that training program, you're actually decreasing the possibilities of you reaching your goals faster by limiting yourself to one journey. Ideas and philosophies have to be structured and designed in this absolute way, and then to claim that they're the only truth or the quickest way is a great commercial tool. It's great for selling a product of program, should I say, or selling a book or regime, but it diverts people from the reality of the fact that there's a quicker way there, and that information's within you. Now, if you're going to try and take body fat away from the body, at some point in that process you are going to be hungry and your body's going to be requiring or giving out signals to require calories. So the idea is to second guess it, or at least put yourself in a situation where that isn't going to affect you to the point where you find it hard to maintain. And the way a lot of people do it is they will structure a program and then just stick to it, and when they get hungry they'll just grit their teeth and bear it. So what I believe is a better option is to create a nutrition philosophy where when you're busy, when you're at work, when your mind is occupied, that is when you take away the calories from the body, which will then lead to hunger signals when your mind's busy, when you're doing stuff, when you're at work. And then when you're at home is when you get to allow your signals to be satisfied.
My hypothesis with Will as an individual, when considering the physiology of AMPK activation and its effect on mTOR, which is a contributor to protein synthesis. In extreme bouts of exercise, your AMPK is activated, which then inhibits mTOR signaling pathway, which means that your protein synthesis is then lowered. And in this case, I believe that it's best to save your calories after this effect is diminished. So after you've trained, maybe 3 to 4 hours is the best time to have a calorie pool and a large amount of protein. Of course, you can also increase the effect of mTOR, or decrease the effect of mTOR inhibiting, by adding leucine straight after training, adding protein and carb drink just after training, which can increase protein synthesis. But as a general ideology, I think it's best to then put your calories 4 or 5 hours and your high protein levels 4 or 5 hours after this certain activity has happened. And this seemed to have a brilliant effect. He was able to lose body fat, and at the same time, through a 12-week period, it seemed to actually build muscle mass, not just maintain it, which was a perfect result.
And I could use the science and the chemical reactions and the endocrine response to justify it, but the main variable would be the psychology, the lifestyle, and the ability to be able to maintain it with little negative effect on you as an individual. And it will be a lot easier to reach your goals, especially if they're really extreme goals. I'm trying to sort of go against the general ideals that are out there, and I think the industry needs an injection of chaos. It needs a bit more intuition, a bit more self-awareness. And that's what I'm trying to get out there. I'm trying to encourage people not to fall victim to relying on a book or a coach or anyone to dictate how they feel or how their body feels. You can use someone as your eyes, or you can use someone as guidance, but I'm very much a hands-off approach, that the less I do, the better I think I'm doing. And if someone needs a nudge in a certain direction, then great. I mean, I'm not into training people for my own ego. I'm not doing it so I can gain any recognition. I do it because I love it. So what I try and do is convince the client that they're doing most of it. And the more I can back off, the more I don't do anything, and the more I just say a little drop here, a little drop there, and then they take it and make it theirs. I think that's something that's far more beneficial to the client, far more beneficial to the person you're helping, and also something they take with them for life and grow with and can also pass on. My approach with Will was literally I gave him as little as possible to get as much as he can from it.